हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गाय नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यंकरवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं भवानी शङ्करौ वन्दे श्रद्धाविश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धाः स्वान्तस्तमीश्वरं वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। रामाय रामभद्राय रामचन्द्राय वेदसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतायाः पतये नमः। बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगताम् अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वती पतये। हर हर महादेव। Hari Om, Hari Om. We'll begin with the Shanti Mantra. Om Bhadram Karnebhih Shrunuyama Devaah Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangaih Stuštuvagam Sastanobhih Veshema Devahitam Yadayuh Swasti na Indro Vruddhashravah Swasti na Pusha Vishvavedah Swasti nastaksho arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. We shall chant from the 5th mantra of the second section, second chapter. Yasmindyau prithivīvāntarikṣam otam manassaha prānaischa sarvaihi tamevaikam janatha atmanamanya vacho vimunchatha amrutasyesha setuhu araivaratanaabhav samhata yatra nadyah saishontascharate bahudha jayamanaha Om ittevam dhyayatha atmanam swasti vapparayat tamasa parastat yas sarvajña sarvavita yasyeva mahima bhuvi divye brahmapure yesha vyomnyatma pratishtitah manomaya prana sharira neta pratishtitonni Hridayam sannidhaya tadvijñānena paripashyanti dhīrāः ānandarūpam amrutam yadvibhāti bhidyate hridayagranthih chindyanti sarvasamshayāः kṣiyanti chasya karmāణi tasmin drishte parāvare Hiranmaye pare koshe virajam brahma nishkalam tachshubram jyotisham jyotihi tadyatma vido viduhu. So the Upanishad is revealing that Supreme Brahma, which is all-knowing, Sarvajña Sarvavita, which knows everything in general and everything in particular also, which is known finally by the intelligent seeker as his own self. And when we gain that self-knowledge, what happens? Bhidyate hridaya grantihi, all the knots of the heart, that is, all the kamnas get dispelled, destroyed, because the vidya itself get destroyed. Chindyante sarva samshayaha, all the doubts of the heart goes away. Kṣiyante chayasya karmani, and all the karmas which were performed in so many lifetimes, they also get destroyed. When we come to realize that Brahma, which is paravara, which is para as well as avara. Para means transcendental, beyond all names and forms. And avara means that Brahma alone is present in front of us as this world. So Brahma is the world, and Brahma is also beyond this world. So Hiranmaye pare koshe virajam brahma nishkalam tatshubram jyotisham jyotihi tad yat atma vido viduhu. So the Atmavit, the knower of that Atma, comes to recognize this Brahma as their own self. It can be recognized in our own antakarana. So Antakarana is like a shining place where that Brahma can be realized. So Hiranmaye Pare Koshe, in that shining golden kosha, is present that Brahma, which is Virajam, Brahma Nishkalam. So Brahma is that which is all pervading, which is infinite, which is the very self of all beings. That Brahma is Virajam, is free from all impurities. The impurities of vidya, ignorance, etc. are not there in this Brahma. Avidyadi ashesha dosha rajo mala varjitam. There are no dosha of avidya and other impurities in that Brahma. That Brahma is Nishkalam, Nirgata Kala Yasmat Nishkalam Niravayavam Ityarthaha. There are no parts in that Brahma. There are no facets in that Brahma. Brahma is one homogeneous, supreme existence. There are no kala in Brahma. There are no phases. See, when we look at the moon, we see the phases from here. So from our standpoint, it appears to have phases, but moon by itself doesn't have any phases. So Brahma doesn't have any phases, any kala. Yasmat virajam nishkalam cha ataha tat shubram. So since Brahma is free from all impurities and it doesn't have any phases, that Brahma is Shubhram, absolutely pure. Brahma is ever pure. Nothing can impurify that Brahma. It is ever pure. Shubhram, Shuddham. Jyotisham Jyotihi. Sarva Prakashatmanam Agnyadinam api tad Jyotihi. This Brahma is the light of all the lights also. See, when we look at this world, we see it so bright and brilliant, illumined by the sun. But the sun and other luminaries themselves are illumined by that Brahma. Just like in our, when we go to sleep, we dream. Though we have switched off all the lights in our room, the room is dark and we go to sleep, and then we dream that we are on some very sunny place. So the sun is shining bright in the sky and the whole place is so luminous. So from where did that light come? That shining sun, where did it bring that light? That light has come from within only. A light was not brought from outside. Similarly, this light which we see in this world, it doesn't belong to those objects, but ultimately all this belongs to that Brahma alone, because everything is expression of that Brahma. Therefore, Brahma is indicated as Jyotisham Jyotihi, the light of all the lights. Agnyadinam api Jyotihi. Api Jyotishvam Antargata Brahmatma Chaitanya Jyotihi Nimittam Ityartaha. So whatever light we see in the luminaries like fire and sun and the moon, etc., are ultimately the light of that Atma alone, of that Brahma. So tadhi param jyotihi yad anyan avabhasyam atma jyotihi. So that is the supreme jyoti of that Brahma which illumines everything. Everything is illumined by that Brahma alone. So this whole world is not inert. The whole world is expression of the Chaitanya Swarupa Brahma alone. Everything shines forth after the light of that Brahma alone. See, in science, they think that everything is born from inert. Therefore, when they observe this world, they come up with various theories. So one of the theories in science is the Big Bang theory, that the whole world was created from a single point. Everything was concentrated on one point, which they call singularity. In that singularity, there was no space, there was no time, there was nothing. In the sense, everything was concentrated there. And then suddenly it expanded into this world. That's what they call Big Bang. And then slowly the various stars were formed, the various galaxies were formed, the various planets were formed, and even our solar system was formed. And then our earth was formed, and on earth slowly the life emerged. So according to science, life has emerged from inert matter. But Vedanta says that is not true. Before, or the one who is even observing this matter is that Chaitanya. Chaitanya Swarupa Atma only. And everything is expression of that Shuddha Atma alone. So Atma, that is Brahma, is the very source of this entire creation. So yad Atma vidaha Atmanam swam shabdadi vishaya buddhi pratyaya sakshinam ye vivekinaha viduhu. So those seekers who come to recognize, realize this Atma, which is the Sakshi of all the Buddhi Vrittis. See, so many thoughts are there in our Buddhi. There is someone who is witness of those thoughts also. There is someone within who is witness not only of the presence of thoughts but also the absence of thoughts. In deep sleep the thoughts are absent and I know. So I know the absence of thoughts also. So that I, who is the knower, who is the witness of the presence as well as absence of thoughts, who is the witness of the presence and absence of ego, who is the witness of the body, mind, senses, that witness Atma is actually Brahma, is all pervading, is the very source of this entire creation. So finally the seeker come to realize this Atma as Brahma. Atmanam swam shabdadi vishaya buddhi pratyaya sakshinam ye vivekinaha viduhu vijananti te atma vidaha. So they all alone come to realize this Atma. So taking the guidance of the scriptures, taking the guidance of the teacher, the sincere seeker finally realizes that Atma. Yasmat param jyotihi tasmat te eva tad viduhu naitare. netare bahyartha pratyayanusarinaha. And this is not realized by those who are totally attached to the outer objects and the thoughts, etc., and who are not guided by the Shastras and the teacher, will not be able to realize this Atma. So, with all our sadhana, we have to realize and gain that direct experience of our own self, which is indicated as Jyotisham Jyotihi, which is the light of all lights. So, what is the meaning of light of all lights? That is being explained now in the following mantra. This is a very famous mantra, many of you might have heard it, and we have seen this same mantra is there in Kathopanishad also. So let us chant. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kuto yam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Again. न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतो यमग्निः तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वं तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति. That Brahma, Supreme Brahma, which is our own self, that Brahma is such that it is not illumined by the sun. Na tatra suryo bhati. The surya, the sun, doesn't illumine there. Sun doesn't illumine that Brahma. See, sun illumines everything. In the waking, the whole world is, during the day, the whole world gets illumined by that sun, the most powerful star nearest to us, this powerful sun, which illumines the whole world, gives it light as well as heat, because of which life also is possible on this earth. That powerful sun, by its light only our senses and all they function, they can see, but that sun cannot illumine, doesn't illumine that Atma, which is Brahma. Brahma is not illumined by the sun. The sun doesn't go there. Therefore, all that is dependent on the sun also doesn't go there. See, our eyes can see by the light of the sun. Therefore, sun is the devata of our eyes. So, not only the sun cannot illumine that Brahma, but even our senses, the eyes, they represent all the other senses also. So all senses cannot illumine that Atma. Atma cannot be seen with our senses. What we see is only the body. Atma cannot be seen. We see the functioning of this body, we see the functioning, we come to know the functioning of our senses, our mind, but that Atma is something which cannot be seen with our senses. Therefore, no equipment, no scientific equipment can observe that Atma. See, a lot of these science people and all are trying to do some research on that consciousness. Research on consciousness. They call that Atma as consciousness, and they are doing research, trying to monitor that consciousness, trying to find. But all that can be monitored, all that can be seen through our instrument is not Atma. Atma is not illumined by the sun, the moon, the stars. See, this we know also. When in our deep sleep, dreamless sleep, the senses don't function. The outer light and all doesn't enter there. The mind doesn't function. The intellect doesn't function. Nothing can reach there. But I exist there. I alone exist. But nothing can touch me, nothing can reach me. So Atma or Brahma is not illumined by the Surya. Na tatra Suryo bhati. Na Chandra. At night and all we have the beautiful moon which illumines the world. But this moon also do not illumine that Brahma. Moon is also the devata of our mind. So our mind or our antakarana also cannot illumine, cannot see or perceive or recognize or define that Atma. Atma is not under the purview of our mind also. It is beyond the reach of the mind. The mind also cannot penetrate that Atma. Therefore, though we are experiencing our own self, free from the body, free from the mind, in deep sleep, when we experience ourselves and when we wake up and when we want to talk about it, we just can't say anything about it. The buddhi, our mana cannot enter, it is so mysterious. Nothing can be said. The only thing I can say is that I was asleep, I slept happily. But who am I? What is that I? Who am I? What is my nature? Nothing can be said about that self. So even the mind or the moon doesn't enter or illumine that self. Na tarakam. What to talk about the stars? There are so many stars are there in the universe. In our Milky Way galaxy itself, there are some 200 million or billion stars are there. And there are such billions and billions of galaxies are there. So, countless stars are there in this entire visible or known universe. There is some portion of the universe which is totally unknown even to science, because the light from that place has not reached here. But within that known universe, there are countless stars are there. Billions and billions of stars are there. But even this vast or countless stars cannot illumine that Brahma, do not illumine that Brahma. Na ima vidyutaha. Sometimes, like in our rooms and all, we have our room illumined by electricity. Even in nature, we see this electricity in the form of lightning. So during rainy season and all, we see the powerful lightning illumining the whole place. So what about that lightning? Can it illumine that Atma? He says no. Na ima vidyuto bhanti. What about fire? Fire also has got this power to illumine. We light the lamp which illumines the whole room. So what about that fire? He says what to talk about fire. Kuto ayam agnihi. How can this Fire illumine that Atma where all these other luminaries also fail to illumine. Fire also is the devata of our speech. So even our speech cannot illumine that Atma, means it cannot define, it cannot talk about that Atma. Even the great Vedas also, they also ultimately talk about that Atma in a negative language only. Negative means neti neti, not this, not this, not this. They just negate all that is known. And that which remains undefined, unknown, is that Atma. It cannot be known with our buddhi at all. But we can gain abidance in that Atma because we are that Atma. I am that Atma. I am Brahma. So, na ima vidyuto bhanti kuto ayam agnihi. So, what to talk about this Agni? Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. When, by the light of that Atma alone, everything gets illumined. Kim bahuna yad idam jagat bhati tat tameva parameshwaram swatah bhavrupatvad bhantam deepyamanam anubhati anudipyate. That Atma is of the nature of light only, and when it shines, everything shines forth by the luminosity of that Atma alone. To make us understand this, Shankaracharya ji gives a beautiful example. He says, Yatha jala ulmukadi agni sanyogad agnim dahantam anudahati. He says, just like the water and other objects. Now water, if you see, it is so, by nature it is so cool. But when that water comes in contact with fire, then what happens? The water becomes hot. So how come that water is hot? Water by nature is cool. So how come it has become hot? It is hot because of the presence of fire in it. The presence of fire is making that water hot, which can burn us also. Similarly, the objects like our mind, our intellect, our senses are inert. They don't have the power to illumine, means power to know. They don't have. But because of the presence of Atma, the mind, the intellect, the senses get the power to know, power to perceive. It doesn't belong to them, but it belongs to that Atma alone. So when that Atma shines forth, the senses and the mind also seems luminous. So tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. When that Atma shines, everything shines forth. Tasya bhasa, tasyeva bhasa deeptya sarvam idam suryadi jagat vibhati. By its light only everything, including the sun, gets illumined. See, light is that by which we see, which illumines. So, even that knowledge is called light. So, Atma is of the nature of light, means Atma is of the nature of pure knowledge, knowledge per se. When it expresses this knowledge, when it expresses through the buddhi, then through the buddhi we know objects. We say, I know this, I don't know this. When that knowledge expresses through the mind, we think and we experience emotions. When that knowledge of that Atma expresses through the senses, depending on the senses, we know, we can see through the eyes, we can hear through our ears, we can smell through our nose. But that power, because of which it can do all this, is that Atma alone. So tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati yata evam tadeva brahma bhati cha vibhati cha karyagatena vividhena bhasa tasya brahmano bhavarupatvam swato avagamyate. So this Atma alone is expressing in different ways in this world. So the many expressions are there depending on the type of objects, but that one Brahma alone is expressing through all of them. It is like the electricity which expresses through the different equipments, and depending on the equipment they function differently. Some equipment give light, some equipment gives heat, some gives cool air, but it is all electricity only, the presence of electricity only making them function in that way. In the same way, the presence of that Supreme Brahma makes everything shine in this world, makes everything function in this world. So realize that Brahma as your own Supreme Self. Get totally fascinated by that Brahma and put forth effort to recognize that Brahma. Then further it says in the next mantra, let us chant mantra number 11. Brahma vedam amrutam purastad Brahma paschad Brahma dakshinatas chottarena adaschordvam chapas prasrutam Brahma vedam vishwamidam varishtham. Once more. Brahma vedam amrutam purastad Brahma paschad Brahma dakshinatas chottarena adaschordvam chapas prasrutam Brahma vedam vishwamidam varishtham. Finally, in this last mantra of this section, of the second chapter, second section, the teacher says कि ब्रह्म एव idam amrutam purasta, that all that is there in front of you, all that is seen by all people in front as this world is nothing but Brahma. Brahma eva idam amrutam. Purastat in front. Brahma paschat. And what about behind us? Says behind also it is Brahma alone. Brahma paschat. Dakshinatas chottarena. And Brahma alone is on our right, and Brahma alone is on the left. This is my right hand, huh? So Brahma alone is on the right and Brahma is on the left. Adascha urdhvam cha prasutam Brahma eva. Even below everything is Brahma, and above also everything is Brahma. Brahma eva idam vishvam. So Brahma alone is this Vishwa. This entire world is Brahma alone. the Supreme Brahma, Varishtham. So let us read Shankaracharya's commentary. Yat tad jyotisham jyotihi brahma tadeva satyam sarvam tad vikaram vacharambanam vikaro namadhyeyam deyamatram andratam itarat iti etad artham vistarena hetutah pratipaditam nigamana staniyena mantrena punarupa samharati. So that which is indicated, yatta jyotisham jyotihi brahma, that which was indicated as the very light of all light, that tadeva satyam, that alone is the ultimate truth, and sarvam, and that alone is everything. And all these are the vikar, the expression of this Brahma. This world is an expression of this Brahma. Tad vikaram vacharambanam vikaro namadhyeyam. Andratam. This world which we see is expression of Brahma. It is called Andratam because it is constantly changing, but it is present. It is there. It exists, but constantly changing. And what is there behind this changing world? What is expressing as this changing world is that Brahma alone. See, let us, you must have heard this many times, so let us again contemplate on this with some examples and all. In the Upanishad, in Chandogya Upanishad, this example of the clay and pot is given. So the world is like the pot and Brahma is like clay. So world is like the pot and Brahma is like the clay. So when you observe this pot, you see the pot in a particular form, but all that is truly there is clay only. So clay alone is appearing like the pot. So the pot also exists. Pot is not illusion. Pot is not non-existent. Pot exists. But what we see as pot is nothing but clay. So that pot which we are talking about, pot, is just a name. It is just a speech. The truth about this pot is nothing but clay. In the same way, the world which we see in front of us, having different forms, having different contents. There are these 5 elements are there, Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, Prithvi, which alone then expresses as our senses. So Pancha Karmendriyas are there, Pancha Jnanendriyas are there. Then the Antakaran is there, which is also part of this world only. So Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. And this whole world is activated, made active by the force called Prana. So Prana is there. So this entire world is actually expression of Brahma. So if we observe this world, from this world, if we contemplate with the help of our Shastras, through the relationship of cause and effect, we will come to understand that Brahma. So the world is Karya and Brahma is Karana. So this is the relationship of the world and Brahma. And for that, the example of pot and clay is given in the Shastra. But the Shastras or in Mundaka Upanishad, etc., the example of rope and snake is also given. So this other example, we should understand it properly. So one is that we have to understand the relationship of the world with Brahma, which is objectively indicated. Then there is that I who is experiencing this world, who is knowing this world. So I, the knower, I not only know the world, but I also have some idea about myself. So I, the knower, who is called a Jiva, I know the world and I know myself also. Though what I know about myself is wrong, and what I know about the world is also wrong when I am ignorant. So, to indicate the nature of my knowledge, another example is given in our Shastra of rope and snake. So listen carefully. This is little bit subtle. So when the Shastras are talking about my understanding of this world, it says that what you are seeing is not proper. What you are seeing is your imaginary concept only. What is really there in front of you is Brahma. So for that, the example of rope and snake is given. That if I see a snake, but actually there is rope only, but due to my own confusion, I see it as a snake, because that rope appears like a snake, and I think it is a real snake there. So what I see there as a snake is due to my misunderstanding. So it is my wrong knowledge. My wrong knowledge makes me see that snake. So in order to clarify my knowledge, the Shastra says that what you are seeing as snake is not snake, it is a rope. Again, when I look at myself, I have misunderstanding about myself. I think of myself as the doer, knower and enjoyer, because I identify with the activities of the body, the mind, the senses, and I wrongly assume myself to be the knower, doer and enjoyer, karta, bhokta, jnata. So I don't recognize my pure that self, which is not karta, bhokta, jnata, but I consider myself as karta, bhokta, jnata. So the Shastra says that what you are thinking yourself to be karta, bhokta, jnata is wrong. That karta, bhokta, jnata is like a snake, it is not true. What is really there is your own pure self. So don't misunderstand yourself to be a karta, bhokta, jnata, but understand yourself to be that Supreme Brahma. Again, don't misunderstand this world to be non-Brahma. Shankaracharya ji writes in this, कि अब्रह्म प्रत्यय सर्वः अविद्या मात्रः रज्वाम इव सर्प प्रत्ययः That to look at this world and think that it is a Brahma, means it is not Brahma, is a false understanding. And we have to remove that false understanding and understand this world as Brahma. This can be understood by the same example also of this pot and clay. So this pot is really clay. But suppose somebody looks at this pot and doesn't know that it is clay and just thinks that it is just a pot, not a clay pot, then his understanding is not proper. Because without clay, pot cannot exist. So if he is seeing a pot without clay, he is seeing a false pot. So he should understand this, what is seen as pot is nothing but clay. So what is seen as this world is nothing but Brahma alone. Okay? We will read Shankaracharya's commentary. Shankaracharya writes कि ब्रह्म एव उक्त लक्षणम idam yat purastad. He says what is seen in front of you. So what do we see in front of us? We see this world made up of matter, world made up of different beings, world which is so vast, infinite. So this world, what is it? The Shastra says Brahma eva. It is Brahma alone. Brahma eva, which is seen by this ignorant person who thinks that it is just a world without knowing that Brahma. So avidya drishtinam pratyaya bhasamanam. So that which is seen by ignorant person is really Brahma only. So all that we see, hear, taste, touch is Brahma. Sarvam kalvidam Brahma. Just as ornaments, all that we see as ornaments is nothing but gold. But that doesn't mean ornaments are not there. Ornaments are there, but ornaments are gold. Similarly, this world which we see, it doesn't mean that world is not there. World is there, but world is Brahma. Tatha paschat Brahma, even behind what we don't see, which exists, is also Brahma. Dakshinataha, Dakshina on the right. Dakshinataha, so whatever is there on the right is also Brahma. Tatha uttarena, and on the left also it is Brahma alone. Brahma alone is on the left. Brahma is on our right. Tatha eva adaha, and all that is there below is also Brahma. Urdhvam cha, and all that is above is also Brahma. Sarvataha anyad iva karya karena prasrutam. So all that is expressing as this karya, as this effect, is all Brahma. Prasrutam pragatam nama rupavad avabhasamanam. That which is appearing like names and form, everything is Brahma and Brahma alone. So this is the ultimate knowledge given in our Shastras, that everything is Brahma. That which appears like the world is Brahma. That which appears like the jivas are Brahma. Everything is Brahma. And following the path and systematic method shown by the Shastra, we have to realize this Brahma. So, Kim Bahuna Brahma eva idam Vishwam. So, the entire world is nothing but that Supreme Brahma alone. Samastam idam Jagat Varishtham Varatamam. So, this Supreme world, this entire world is expression, is Brahma alone. Is Brahma. See, in the beginning, when we have to teach someone, we convey the thing through the method of cause and effect. We say the pot is the effect and clay is the cause. Pot is the effect and clay is the cause. So from the pot, when our attention gets shifted to the clay, then we understand, when we come to recognize the clay, then we understand this whole cause and effect concept itself is only for the sake of teaching. Otherwise there is no cause and effect, there is only clay is there. Clay alone is there. Clay has not become something. Clay alone is appearing like a pot. Clay has not become something else. Everything is clay only. Similarly, everything that we see is Brahma and Brahma alone. If one doesn't recognize that Brahma, doesn't see that Brahma, then that seeing or that type of knowledge is false. And that is what Shankaracharya says, ki abrahma pratyaya. To see this world as abrahma. Abrahma means non-Brahma. Means not to realize, recognize Brahma in this world, then that understanding is false. World is not false. That misunderstanding which we have is false. That misunderstanding is called mithya. So, abrahma pratyaya sarvaha avidya matraha. This abrahma pratyaya is because of avidya, because of ignorance. Rajvam iva sarpa pratyaya. Like in a rope, one has got the notion of a snake. So what is there in front of us is rope, which appears like a snake. But it is not snake, it is rope only. But in our buddhi, there is a notion that it is a snake. So that notion which we have in our buddhi is false. It is a mithya jnanam. Because that snake which is there in our head is not there anywhere. Similarly, the world which we think in our head as non-Brahma is not there anywhere. Because what is in front of us is Brahma only, not a non-Brahma world. So, Brahma eva ekam paramartha satyam iti vedanushasanam. Therefore, the very sar, the very essence of the teaching of the entire Vedas is this only. What? Ki Brahma eva ekam paramartha satyam. That Brahma alone is the supreme reality and everything is that Brahma alone. Other than Brahma, nothing is there. To think that there is something other than Brahma, that is a wrong notion. And that wrong notion is mithya. World is not mithya. Brahma is not mithya. World is Brahma alone. So this is being conveyed here. And thus concludes this second chapter second section. Okay? But still one more chapter is remaining, because the teacher wants to also give some more sadhanas which we can do, and some values which we have to cultivate, so that we will be able to realize this Brahma. And also that Brahma is pointed out, giving some other metaphor, because it is so subtle. So one more metaphor is given, a beautiful metaphor is given of the two birds. So that we will see in our next class. Next class will be on Thursday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Tomorrow we will have our Sundarkand session. We will chant Sundarkand and listen to the beautiful Charitra of Hanumanji. Till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana, and we shall meet again tomorrow. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram, 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 Jaya Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Bole Siyava Ramachandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.